some of these policies, you need to solve certain basic things for them to work
Absolutely.
well.
And not even just solve them, maintain them. People have lived experiences. There are ways people are judging these elections and how they see it to be. So people are there, they are voting just because of certain policies and things they benefited from this economy and what they think would happen. They don't really care about what the endorsement will look like.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Shaft Podcast. This is the second episode of Ghana This Week, where we bring you a recap of the hottest topics that happened during the week. My name is Zoe Lois Poku, and I'm here with two very... I'm here with two very articulate gentlemen. I'm here with Ralph and Bannerman, both social commentators and in-house people. So if you followed us in the first episode, I'm pretty sure you would have seen the two of them, and you'll definitely be seeing more of them too as well on Ghana This Week. Ralph, welcome.
Thank you very much. So we are swapping seats.
Yeah,
It's
we are.
interesting.
Very,
It's
very nice to have you here too.
Sure.
Hi, Bannerman.
Hi,
It's
Zoe.
been a while.
Fantastic.
Nice to see you too. So with the two of them here, we're definitely going to have a blast during our discussions. But before we delve into the topics, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Shaft Podcast, and on Spotify, The Shaft Podcast too as well. Okay, so let's just get right into it. The golden statue. So earlier this week at the Regional Hospital in Takoradi, Ifeankwanta, there was a statue unveiling of His Excellency Nana Addo. And we have a few comments that were running on social media, different conversations. BECE also covered the story. Let me know what you think, Ralph.
I think before we go on the discussion, we should always know that it's not Akufo-Addo that did the statue for himself.
Okay.
It was the regional minister and the entire party people of the region that deemed it fit for us to have the statue for him. So there are statues of liberty and the statue of Bawumia. That's the statue of Akufo-Addo. I think the problem with everybody's reaction is, for me, I don't think it's a national uproar, to be fair. I think it's good that the people within the constituency have been very clear about airing their grievances, because a couple of videos you watch from Channel 1 clearly shows most of the people are unhappy with the whole statue. Imagine such a statue and where it's located. Most people don't seem so happy about the kind of feedback that they've gotten. And it's a legit claim. What I think they should do instead is they should register their displeasure where it is due. But the thing is, it's the media. They probably took it from one-sided perspective. I've not seen anybody, except the social media people, obviously, party people say, oh yes, he deserves a statue and all of those things. But I don't think the feedback we are getting generally from the people there is one that shows any sense of happiness on their side. Do you think he deserves a statue? For Takoradi especially, it's their constituency problem. For me, I don't think it's a national issue. We should not be worried about like Galamsey, because Galamsey affects everybody's life. Where the statue is and where we are right now, the people there should just decide how it affects them and how they react to it. I think it's a them problem.
Okay. But before you go, let me know statues. What do they represent, and has a statue of this kind been unveiled before? And then let me know what you think about the statue.
All right, so statues are supposed to represent a culmination of your work. So usually people build it for you. So it represents that you've done so well and they want to immortalize your legacy and all those things. So I feel like there have been a lot of other statues like that. Kwame Nkrumah had a statue, they destroyed it. I think Rollins has a statue. I think a UDS. Other people have a statue. I think and busts also. So I think Madam Tiwa has a bust. So there's a long story about that. So yeah, people have statues and all that. My problem with this particular statue is just from the view of what I saw, the roads in that particular area is incomplete. It seems like there's work being done.
It seems like there is.
Yeah, so it's like the statue is very nice. It's shining. It's gold.
Very
Captures
lovely head. Yeah, absolutely.
Everything, and it's in the middle of that uncompleted thing. It doesn't look so nice.
And it's supposed to commensurate works that have been done.
Exactly. So that's my problem. My problem is that they could have waited and finished all the works and then unveil the statue. That would have, and I think that is why some people were saying that they were voicing out their displeasure, because it's like, what do you take us for? We are not done. We've halted some other projects in the region.
Yeah.
The hospital rehabilitation is not done.
Yeah.
And yet there's a statue. So again, as I said, like, lived experiences differ. Someone may say that Nana Addo has done extraordinarily well in that particular constituency, based on the routes he has, because he has built roads over there and all that. But I just feel like objectively, with where it is situated, with how there's some things are not complete and all that, it's just not a good look. That's what I think. Yeah.
Right. So, Ralph, let me know. Do you think the displeasure we are seeing online is going to reflect in the polls, or you think it's just displeasure happening due to people thinking that he shouldn't have the audacity to have this particular statue where it is, considering the underdevelopment that's happening there?
So one thing we should always know about people is people are reactionary to issues when they happen. But as to whether those issues will inform their decision is also another thing. Because let's be fair, people vote for various reasons. People vote because of free SHS, some people are voting because of bad economy, other people are voting because of affiliation, some people are voting just because that is what they belong to. Now, in as much as we say democracy is supposed to reflect the minds of individual, which it does, we can't say until we see the polls whether it is something that would happen, because where that region is situated, it can't be something that we can say, oh, it's an MPP region, so therefore that particular statue is going to affect how the voters turn out to be. What I just think generally about these things is that beyond the reactionary nature of how people are, the polls will decide.
Yeah.
If the polls don't decide, the feedback is decided. Because so far so good, I don't think anybody from those constituencies have done any video to show, or any popular training video to show that they were happy with the state of the golden statue in as much as it came out. So I once again, people are very reactionary. We can't assume that they would vote just because of a statue they registered displeasure with. Especially when the statue was not even done by him, it was done by the regional minister for him. Probably when they're to Gracie, that was a problem. But what can we say?
Okay. And before we move on to the next topic, Bannerman, let me know. Do you think this is a Nkrumah versus a Akufo-Addo statue battle?
Well, when it comes to Nkrumah versus anybody, me, I would always say don't compare. Because I'm an Nkrumah through and through. So let us not compare, especially because, and I've said this on this platform before. Again, I said quote me. You don't quote me. You go and take out something that I said out of context. That doesn't support NPP and cook me. But just go back and watch that episode and watch this one and quote me. Of all the presidents Ghana has ever had since Kwame Nkrumah, the one with the most forward-looking policies that targeted our industrialization was Nana Addo. Planting for food and jobs, wearing for food and jobs, one district, one factory, Agenda 111, free SHS. All these things were literally targeting aspects of our economy that needed to be worked on for us to move into the next industrial revolution. So very impactful. Problem, he couldn't do even half of those things. Not me saying that, they said it even from their party, and they gave a lot of reasons for that. Russia-Ukraine war, COVID, any other reason that they could give. If he had done just half of those things, I feel like we could have put him in the charts for being one of the best presidents we ever had. But being unable to do these things, we can't really put him in the chart, especially if it's against Kwame Nkrumah. Because Kwame Nkrumah is down, you're using that his factories that he built, the knowledge base that he created, the universities, high schools, motorways, like you can't have those charts. Like that's the thing. But so long as legacies are concerned, you can put up a statue to represent who, in your own opinion, has done so much for you and your country. That's up to you. Ralph said, like earlier in the conversation, about how people think Rollins. People have very divided opinions about Rollins. That Rollins was a killer. That's what people say. Like killed people during military rule. Some people were like, yeah, he brought discipline and accountability to Ghana. So whether you think Nana Addo is the greatest president to have in Ghana, that's your opinion. We are all allowed to have opinions, but objectively, it is simply not true.
Well, yes.
It's objectively is subjective too. Because let's be fair, just as he said, I think legacies are people perspective and how they relate to them.
Right.
But to be fair, Akufo-Addo's, when it comes to policy wise, is probably one of the best, as he said. And policy implementation wise, it would be very easy for you to tell people in the next 20 years that Akufo-Addo was one of the best presidents.
Do you think that would be whitewashing history?
Whitewashing history, how? Because if you want us to talk about, for the past 8 years, there have been people who went to free senior high school because of him.
Yeah.
They would say that they were lived experiences. We also 2020, free water, free electricity, 3 days. Even if we paid it back later, he was the one that I know. But that's the thing about history. For every single point of view you take it from, Akufo-Addo has been that guy that has experienced it quite well. And the truth about legacies are, one of the best presidents and the president now fell in the right moment of PR, because you can realize in the last 8 years, when it comes to PR, this government, I don't think I'm not
I don't
quite,
think there's
I don't think there's any other government
that has been
deal
able to
with
deal.
situations
Yeah.
as this government.
Absolutely.
Fellow Ghanaians, every
Fellow
single night,
Ghanaians,
like, bro,
that's
It
yeah.
comes
That
when
was
we were all stuck in the house and everybody was just waiting
Wait
for
for
the fellow
fellow
Ghanaians to
Ghanaians.
happen.
let me just before you go on that
Uh-huh.
side, I have friends in Nigeria during that time. Richard Uyok. During that time, we were like, we're so lucky to have had a president like Nana Addo,
Yes.
because whilst they were suffering, I remember they had an issue with palliatives. People had hoarded palliatives.
True, yeah.
People were taking it away. But like, our presidents are dressing us every night,
Yeah.
assuring, and I'm like, yeah, that's my president.
He comes every week with a new kente. Everybody's looking for the new title. When he
Yeah.
comes, everybody's giving us these are the quintiliments and the rest. Other countries are US, for example, their president is telling them
To drink bleach.
exactly to drink all those things. And we have our president come to tell us that, oh, fellow Ghanaians, then he speaks 3 different languages. You people think when it's time for us to talk about his legacies, if they do a documentary about Akufo-Addo now, you think those moments won't be dramatically historical?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
imagine people
Absolutely.
saying during the
I see it.
during the dawn of 2020, when the world was locked out, there was one president that addressed us more than 20 times. So when it comes to legacy, see, everybody's going to make it look like he's that guy, he's not that guy. Akufo-Addo's legacy, the proper settings. So in the next 10 years, God willing, if we are still out there, these are conversations that we would see materialize. He's one of those guys that have put themselves in when it comes to Ghana's history in politics, and his legacy would be very, very, very very up there. Probably even ahead of him, but let's just go on.
So speaking on policies, especially on policies, let's discuss the policies that have been running this week. We have free first year university fees, a 24-hour economy, app stores, free university for disabled people. We recently got yesterday the credit score app. Yeah, and then just generally putting in the word digitalization. So, Bannerman, let's start with you.
All right.
What do you think about these policies? A comparison between the two major parties.
All right. So let's begin with the flagship policies for each party. Flagship policy for the NDC is 24-hour economy.
Yeah.
Flagship policy for the NPP is digitalization.
All right.
I have general problems like for both of these parties. The reason, and let's use the examples I gave. We came from an era where there were promises of Agenda 111, one village, one dam, one district, one factory, planting for food and jobs. What made these policies sell for Nana Addo was that they were visceral. We could see that the impact was real for us. When he says that he's going to build a factory in each region, in each district, it means that people were going to get jobs. When he said that we are going to do planting for food and jobs, we are going to get jobs and we are going to produce for ourselves. We are going to export. It was real.
Yeah.
When we say that we are going to do one village, one dam, we get irrigation to solve the problem of rain-fed agriculture dependency. There were real solutions to real problems. You could feel the visceral benefit. The problem with, my opinion, with both policies from both leading parties is that there's a certain disconnect where both policies don't feel real enough. So let me start with Mohammed's 24-hour economy. When we say the 24-hour economy, it's difficult. I feel like it's big. The policy is big, it's broad. And it requires a lot of things for you to buy into it or to believe into it, in it, or to see what it would look like. So in debate, we say, what is your MEC?
Exactly.
So how will it look like? What will you do for it to work? How will you implement it? And because of the lack of the communicators to explain these things, we can't visualize what that policy will look like. I don't know if because it's so broad, in an attempt to break it down for us, they've taken it to ridiculous lengths. So for instance, when someone says 24-hour economy, what comes to your mind is that so matches sellers will work and then there'll be a shift for. Of course, you can see that it is what's the word for it? Something like absurd. You are just making the case absurd. But when you don't explain it to people, that is how they understand it.
True.
Exactly. So it means that if you have something like 24-hour economy, you need to put in place things like you are building industry so that we know that, okay, if these people get out, the shift is over, then people will now take the shift and they'll work, you get employment and all those things. But when we are like operating under the paradigm that we know of right now, is that Cow Bank is going to have to hire more workers. When those workers go, new workers come. Like lorry stations have to get more drivers. When these people go to sleep, new people come. Like the assumption that is how it will operate is what we are stuck with because that's what you communicated to us. You understand? So I feel like there are so many missing pieces when it comes to explaining what that policy looks like. And that's the disconnect. It may be a very brilliant, I think it is a brilliant idea. I just think that maybe it's not communicated well enough for us. Second thing, digitalization.
Yeah.
So before I go into an analysis of that thing, my personal opinion, I don't think that, because that's what Bawumia says, the fourth industrial revolution. Beautiful. I feel Ghana hasn't been able to tap into our industrial revolution in the first place to be able to jump to digitalization. I feel we are jumping steps.
Okay.
And in economics, like, you are able to make the most in terms of profit from the resources that are most proximate to you. The resources most proximate to us: gold, oil, agricultural products. We are unable to add value to a lot of these things. We are unable to add value to the gold, to the agricultural products, and all these things. If that is the case, we are not getting the most value out of it. It means we are failing the economy. Then we jump over all those things, all the proximate things to us, and jump into a digital world. I feel we are jumping steps, right? And that is my general opinion on the fourth industrial revolution. But let's analyze the policy in itself. I think it's a good idea. I think it's a brilliant policy, especially because we are in an age where technology is important. But the same critique I gave for Mahama, so listen, the same critique on both sides. The same critique I gave for Mahama, I think applies here. People can't visualize how real the benefits of that policy is to them. So there's a streaming app. There's a citizens app. Okay. There's Go Ride, bro. We talked about Go Ride last week. There's Go Ride. The reason why I feel like there's a disconnect is that, one, people don't feel that there's a connection between these things having an active impact on their lives and on the economy. Number two, it doesn't speak to like how exactly those things will transform their lives all of a sudden. And that's because it doesn't solve the primary problems. So for instance, we don't have street lights. Accra is very dark. Accra Kumasi Road, hardly any street lights from the Accra Kumasi stretch. But then you are going to launch Go Ride. Bad roads, the motorway, like all these issues, you want to do Go Ride. It doesn't solve the problem. You get me?
Also, majority of people don't really take Ubers. It's treacherous, so how does that solve?
What was explained to me, someone explained to me at work, apparently, an LPB person explained to me at work. Apparently, it's meant for taxi drivers. That's what he told me, that it's meant for taxi drivers, and they can also use it and all that. Because apparently, taxi drivers came to him to talk to him about the problems they are facing, because they see that the Uber, the Bolt,
Ralph, I'll come to you.
are taking their jobs and all that. So, you see, as I said, there's a disconnect.
Wow.
People don't see how it impacts their lives, and that is my general problem. Good policies, great policies,
But there's no
just don't see the
disconnect.
impact. Yeah.
Ralph, before you do, a few things. One, do you think the reason why there's been like a lack of elaborate explanation for these policies from opposition is because they are premising their win in the elections that are coming in a few days from the poorly governed country that's Ghana, like over the 8 years that has been existent? Do you think that's the reason why these policies are not elaborated as much? But secondly, when it comes to digitalization for the government in part one, a lot of these things have been shown through apps. Let me know what your take is, considering that not all Ghanaians use smartphones, most especially people that these things will relate to. Like, what does that look like for us? And then also let me know, with regards to digitalization, considering that he is the sitting vice president, don't you think that it may have been better to have shown in things like reducing the bureaucratic processes when we go to places like DVLA, health, and things like that? Let me know what you think.
Response to that. So I think there's already a system, according to them, that instead of you to go and re-register your license, there are codes you could test. Even as part of their campaign policies, they talk about how now NHIS renewal, you don't have to go all the way to the office. You can just, on your phone, click a code, pay through mobile money, you're fine. And one thing they always see, I always get this English wrong, sorry, that's at intermobility, that thing where they say...
Interoperability.
Exactly, that thing, sorry, that's what they literally campaign on as one of the biggest things he did.
Yeah.
For me, I think for somebody who, when he came in 2016, he was seen as an economics guru, and that was literally the reason why most people were so interested in him. We saw him to be the person that would probably solve the problems that happened. I think it's a problem solution mismatch, as my mother said.
Yeah.
If you look at the problems we are facing now in the country, it's inflation, no jobs, lack of security, up to the bad roads are conversations that we could have, unexplainable stuff. For every single thing we want to explain, the conversation will always drop down to Russia, Ukraine, war, COVID. the rest of the world is suffering. If we suffer, why not? The thing is, for the past 8 years, just as Bannerman said, again, if the current president, the person running was his vice president, implemented half of what he's doing, I don't think digitalization would have had a wrong place setting now. Credit them for Ghana card. But when they shipped to our factory, he did a few, but where are people getting their jobs from? Everybody's literally looking for a way to leave the country. These are problems that are there that people are looking to solve. The response to that could be there's a policy fatigue problem. Why is that so? Akufo-Addo has stretched out the policies. Because in my head, I'm thinking, what can they say that would sound so unique? Because if they come to meet us now and say, I would build new roads, I don't think anybody would find it so exciting. They'll be like, yeah, that's a job of government already. I'll build new hospitals. Yeah, that's a government of job already. I'll stop doom so. You said so the last time. I'll stop inflation. Oh yes, but you were the vice president, head of economic board. Did you stop it? I'll end Galamsey. Like, so I'm sure everybody in their bid to sound unique, sophisticated, and keep voters enthused about what's happening, they usually just try to look for an extra touch. The problem with the extra touch is it has target markets. We might not be the target market, because to be fair, people are so happy about the apps. People are so excited. Why are they excited? The rest of the world is doing it. We are catching up to them. So people see it from a blame view. Oh, Uber is from the US. Oh, Bolt isn't from the US. So Ghana government has given us Ghana ride. So therefore, we are matching with the white people. The same thing they do for Katanga when he sets up toy transformers and tells us that we have the capacity to also challenge the US and the UK. It's that same idea people are using to address the issue of digitalization. So citizens app, yay, but for what? Ghana Music Stream app, okay. What makes you think people would stop listening to Spotify, Apple, and start listening to Ghana music? How many of these music are there? Response would be obviously it's a great platform. All these things are things that are not addressing issues, but for weird reasons, people are they're so stirred up, they're so rolled up about this conversation. And for me, I just say it again, that's the beauty of democracy. It allows people to assess what they are saying. So probably to us, we don't understand how these policies work with the 24 hours economy, because when you hear 24 hours economy, you're asking, how many industries are, the industries already doing up 24 hours already, people that do shift. What does it look like? Where is the money going to come from? We are not done solving farming issues and farming crisis. We've not built enough industries. We've not done all the forms of evolution. Why are you guys all concerned about coding? Yes, shoot.
Yeah, so this is something we can see, like we can see as a response for both NDP
and this year.
That's like, we don't have to wait to solve all our problems before we begin doing something else. You know, it's like, okay, we think digitalization is for the future, but like we don't need to solve all our problems before we go to digitalization.
Right.
We don't have to solve all our problems before we go there. You can have that argument. My issue with that argument is that some of these policies, you need to solve certain basic things for them to work well.
And not even just solve them, maintain them. So you don't just say you've built a hospital or you built the road. So yeah, we are done. Or you built the hospital. Yeah, it's the fault of the people that they are not able to take care of it very well. And these conversations are them not being honest. But to the sitting vice president's conversation. So, and that's my problem with his policy, because now everybody's torn between the rock and the hard. That's what they say.
Rock and a hard place.
2016, we saw Mahama. Let's be fair, nobody should whitewash to make it look like he was great. Doomsday was bad. The PR response to issues were very, very off. Back then, so I quite remember when people discuss some things, you get some ridiculous quotes and all those things. He was voted out. Beautiful. Now, we've had 8 years of Nana Addo and Bawumia. The reason you can't separate the two of them is because you can't say one was the face and the other was the mate. No matter what happened, they both contributed to it happening. Because if you can say within this government, we can credit him for digitalization, we can credit him for all of the things he says he's done, the economics guru, e-levy and all of those things. You can't tell me that when it's time for us to now say we are blaming him for these same things, then he wants to telling us, let us shift the blame. It's not fair because it makes average thinking people look like, so what do you take us for? And now when we bring this poster out, people don't respond to the issues. Rather, and that's the problem with Ghanaian politics, when you ask A, they don't answer A. They automatically assume you are B. So when you ask, why are you blaming B? Everybody now says, but Mahama did.
Where your Jesse, bro? Where
your Jesse? What Mahama did is not my problem, because the reason we voted him out was because he was not doing his job. Your response can't be, there's inflation now. Your response can't be, but there was inflation then. It means you guys are admitting you are both bad, and that's what's putting everybody in this posture. So on the question on the vice president and how people are seeing the policy address, as I addressed earlier, one, policy fatigue. So everybody is going out of the blues to build skyscrapers for us when they've still not dealt with the foundation.
Yeah.
But two, nobody's just being honest in admitting responsibility and just trying to make things better. And that's what I generally get.
So, Bannerman,
Yeah.
before your last word and we go to the next topic, do you think that there's a lot of similarities with regards to the tone of the policies from the 2016, 2020 Nana Akufo-Addo policies? Do you think there's a similar tone to it with regards to what we are seeing now when it comes to opposition and also sitting?
Yeah, I think as Raul said, it is probably policy fatigue. There are just not enough issues for you to talk about to excite people, to make them want to, oh, this is something new. I will vote for this person because of this new thing, you know. So I think there's really not much to talk about. That's why I don't really think there's so much of a difference. I think a lot of the ideas that came during Anado's time when he won were pretty not revolutionary. Just I felt like they looked like they were solving actual problems. And that's why people, me included, were very happy about policies like that. And a couple of things I wanted to say. Let it not be lost on you that we don't know the importance of digitalization, because we all know it all.
Yeah.
Like so, for instance, you know that if you remove the human element to an extent, especially at our ports, which is something that some of the apps are solving, it makes it easier for us to be able to transact businesses. It cuts out a lot of the money that goes away. It reduces the time that we keep all the things there, etc. A database means that you're able to expand tax brackets. Streaming app means that you're able to have our own. It's difficult to defend a streaming app, honestly, because I don't think it's a great idea. Go right, I also don't think it's a great idea. To be honest. But basically, digitalization has actual impact on the economy. That's not lost on you. We know that. It's just that we don't think that it's solving some of the biggest issues that Ghana has. That's basically it.
Right.
Extension on that same conversation.
Right.
Again, as you said, it's not bad, but one, we don't think, based on how you've been able to handle the current conversation, you were tagged as the economics guru. If during
Wizard.
economic wizard, if during the time when you were seen as the economic wizard, you were not able to show your wizardry. Because the point is, when there was crisis, and that's the truth, when you need people the most is when they show their prowess. People would always say, okay, things would have been worse because of what they did. It wasn't that bad. But the honest truth is, Cote d'Ivoire is a perfect example of people that have gone through that and they are still doing okay and have had a jump start. I don't think the people are just easily able to trust and say, hey, we trust that when digitalization comes, you solve it out. And because of that, you're giving us like 6 or 7 apps. I don't think those things just work for me. That's just my thought on the same discussion.
Okay, so the discussion we've had right now is just showing that there is an economic problem. People are experiencing hardships. So on that, do you think that money is then going to influence people's decision in the elections? Case in point, in the Efutu constituency, we have the MPP. We have the MPP, Honorable Alexander Afenyo-Marking, pledging to support the just finished graduates in junior high school, 1,000 cedis each. And then you have his opponent, the NDC parliamentarian, in quotes, crying in a video that was circulating. So let me know your thoughts. Considering the hardships, do you think that money is a factor for votes? And because that's what the NDC the parliamentarian candidate was insinuating.
First things first. He said he was supporting the families, meaning that it is those who have BECE children that he's giving that as a form of support. I think one thing we should all recognize about it is that these conversations are conversations that could be seen in a different light, because it's not necessarily money has always influenced election. But I don't think, and that's the thing, as I said earlier, humans are unpredictable. I understand that his opponent is worried, because to be fair, 1,000 Ghana in this economy, free money to support your BECE candidate, it's something that would really have an impact on how the person will be able to settle themselves in. But I don't really think, I think at this point, if you take the money, it's good, but as to whether that will influence your decision is up to you. I don't know what Bannerman thinks, but...
And Bannerman, before you let us know what you think, do you also think the reason why he is crying out is because he doesn't have enough time to replicate the same gesture? Honestly. Or you think it's just a genuine content of ethics and how he thinks that it's going to mar the elections in a certain kind of way?
I think he should, with the video I saw, he did point out that, like, how come the MP hadn't done this all this time? And it's just that when it's a few months to election, a few days to election.
A few days, 29 days or 28 days to election.
Just a few days to election, and all of a sudden you want to help people. I mean, maybe he has the money now. Like, I don't want to he has his own opinion about it. He's crying out. I don't want to assume that he would have done the same thing if he had the money, you know. So like, yeah. So I just feel like on that note,
Yeah.
the ethics thing, we can always talk about that on another day. What I would like to say on that is that campaign financing is a very important conversation we need to have in
Right.
Ghana, especially with what happened somewhere last year and this year with the primaries. We saw massive amount of money being given out by both NDC and NPP.
Okay.
We saw things being given out, motorbikes, gas cookers, a lot of things being given out. And to an extent where the media, and we are not the ones saying it, the media houses were actively reporting it, right? To a point where we saw an issue when there was money placed on the table of the electoral commission of that particular election. And so vote buying, money in election, campaign financing is a very important thing. I do think it has an impact on how people vote.
Okay.
But personally, and I was in my boss right here today, I was telling the guy that I actually think people have decided who to vote for like at the beginning of the year. Honestly, I think that people have
I think it's
decided-
unwavering.
It's unwavering. I feel like
Okay.
people have decided in their mind, like they have taken their decision at the beginning of the year. It doesn't really matter what you do. But you see, let's draw a parallel between the American election and the Ghanaian election.
Oh, okay.
Kamala Harris outspent Donald Trump by 50%. She raised more money. She had more celebrity endorsements. She paid for more performances by celebrities.
All in 100
these
days.
things. Yes. And it still didn't make a difference. Donald Trump lashed her in the popular vote, lashed her in the electoral college, is lashing her in both in House and Senate. So you see, you can say that Ghana is different from the US, but I mean, people have taken money. We've seen this in Ghana, like people take money and they don't vote for you. Like there was this one.
Sometimes they don't vote at all.
Yeah, they don't vote at all. There was this man who said he wants his money back. Like recently in the primaries, like it has happened before. In Ghana, I've forgotten who it was in Ghana. A very popular person. He voted like he had 0 votes, literally 0 votes, and he voted there, like the place where like that's where he voted. He had 0 votes.
Yeah.
So like campaign financing is important, but we've seen it will not matter,
Okay.
especially with the US election.
Right.
So, like honestly, I just feel like it could go anywhere.
Okay.
I personally feel people have decided already. So
Ralph, let me know what you think with regards to finances in the election, and then also let me know what you think with regards to religion and culture and how it plays in identity politics.
Oh, interesting. For me, I still think financing is questionable. I disagree with Bannerman when he said people have decided. There are people that have decided who they'll vote for or whether they'll vote based on that conversation.
Yeah.
And votes can equally change because, well, as I tried to explain earlier, people are deciding as to between 2016, Mahama, who we sent out, who has 4 more years to go, versus a vice president who is currently in power and is leading this entire economy going down. Honestly, people who plan on voting for third parties, that can be a different conversation. For me, I just don't think financing plays that much of a key role. Like anybody who has decided to leave their house to go and vote has already decided who they will vote for. As to whether when you give them more money would have an effect on what they do, it's up to them.
Yeah.
People can change their mind. Money can change. Oh, it's just one vote. It's a change issue. We've seen how these things can accumulate to become an election, and those things become a problem. With regards to identity politics, my takes on it, I think identity politics has always played in this country for a very long time.
Okay.
Through culture, through religion. So people always try to wire their votes through certain lines to make sure they get certain votes. And that's because most of the key decision makers in elections are usually the people who take the decisions are people who are usually affiliated by that. So people usually try to appease to churches, mosque, or they try to see the traditional leaders to get favor on their side.
Right.
That is because within our cultural setting, we have a certain view, we view the opinions of these people. So there's a way I view you when I see you affiliated to my pastor. That's because I see my pastor to be someone of a higher status, and I think he takes a very better decision. The problem is just that now the politicians are not even well focused on the conversations anymore. They focus a lot on identity politics. So I think in recent time, like a training video that has probably surfaced in recent time is when we have the current running mates to the President Napo go on and say, oh, if a Muslim and you vote for Mahama, it's haram. Same can be said for NDC back when NDC also thought that there was no world possible that Bawumia would have been made president. In fact, you get the former general secretary who's not their chairperson tell them that they just think NPP is using Bawumia. When it's time to vote, they wouldn't give him the opportunity. Those things exist on both lines. My question now is the timing of the conversation and as to whether it is necessary to have now 30 days to elections. Why is that so? So you get, I think I used that word. He said our current running mate, President Bawumia, has been actively involved in, what do you call it? He said religious or in, he's been able to put himself so much aggressively that there was a period when there was no church service. He doesn't attend. Now I think I'm not even surprised if I see him in the church anymore. Because
Absolutely.
He's put himself there to the point where he's been able to cancel out that conversation happening. Even to the point that now I don't think people even see him to be an ordinary anymore.
Absolutely.
People have
The
seen
conversation
he
is
has
not
put himself so
existing
much
anymore.
there that now I don't think that has been the biggest conversation to be had 30 days to election. So it's weird that, and the thing is, I have a problem with both running mates. I think one isn't talking. I think the other is miscommunicating. That's a huge problem. You have somebody who is
Okay, you're talking about
You mean the
of-
running mates of
each of them.
Yeah.
For the NDC, she isn't actively putting herself in the media space. The only time she came
The
out
last
is-
conversation.
the last conversation I thought trended before the recent one was the
Galamsey.
Galamsey one that happened. And when you hear that conversation, you know why probably she's not giving enough information. Then we have one that every single week
There's
there
always
is
something new.
something that happens. From comparing to Kwame Nkrumah to I'm trying to think of it, and in my head I'm like, I don't know what the end goal is. Because from my point of view, I don't think right now I'm worried about whether Bawumia is a Muslim or not, to be fair. I don't think those things are things that would tie to the conversation.
Don't you think he's appealing to a certain kind of people?
My point is, you're
Certain
going
group of
to
people.
appeal to a certain group of people. You are creating spite for yourself. You are not making yourself that guy anymore. Because if the logic is, if you vote for a Muslim as a Muslim, if you're a Muslim and you vote for a Christian, it is haram. Flip the switch. Do you think it's also not haram that a Christian is voting for a Muslim as president? It begs to question what was the thought process behind that particular statement when it was made. And the fact that he said it in front of a prominent chief in that area, it's something that is, I don't know. I find it very, the word is not saucy. I find it very cringe. I find it very weird. Because now, and that's why, once again, credit Akufo-Addo. 2016, even if he goes to all the chiefs and there's nothing for him to say, what you hear from him is him telling you that free SHS is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Credit, like, and that's the thing. They are not ringing the right conversation for it to be the theme of the conversation. I think it's 29 days to election, but
And there still hasn't been anything that has been running.
everything is just going around. People want change, but they're
Yeah.
afraid of the change that would happen. So I just think that's my 2 cents on that chat.
Bannerman, before you do, please add a few things. One, do you think that the strategy for Bawumia is to play the diplomatic card, whilst his running mate is the one who is more radical and appealing to certain groups of people?
I was literally just about to talk about this.
And then let me know also if you think that there are more floating voters now as compared to 2020 and why that's the case. Do you think it's probably because there's no outstanding policy from both sides that are running, both majority parties that are running? Let me know what you think on that.
All right, so about the strategy thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know about their plans, but what I would say is that we are acting very intellectual in the studio. Every single person here has been involved in student politics. Every single person.
Yes, we have.
We've all been involved in student politics. Yes. And we know that.
Ralph championing the cause at every point in time.
So let's not act like we don't know how political campaigns work. There are two strategies. There is the diplomatic strategy and then there's the propaganda strategy.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend we don't know those things happen. They do happen. So I feel like it's just that same kind of thing that is happening right now. And it's happening for both the NPP and the NDC, as Ron pointed out. It's there. My problem is, should this kind of messaging be the one that we encourage at a time like this? Should we call out this kind of messaging? Should we force people to recount those kind of statements? I think it's very important that we do to reset how political campaigns look in Ghana. Because you see, the kind of messaging this kind of thing that like this identity politics thing does is that it doesn't just make it look like it's an us versus them, which creates enemies going into the future. It actively harms certain groups of people. Because what do you mean by people should not vote for somebody because, so for instance, the video I watched which I talked about, he says that like the reason why Muhammad and Sanos didn't stay in the Julia house was
For
because
8 years.
it's near Nima
Zongo.
and Nima is in
Zongo.
Zongo and they are Muslim. I mean, what do you mean by that? You see, it's I don't want to say insulting, but it's kind of it sends a certain kind of message, and it is not tasteful at all.
I think he has the target
Especially,
market.
exactly, that's what I was just about to say.
Well,
Especially with the Zongo,
Yes.
mentioning Zongo, I think he really wanted to spark some sort of reaction from certain people. That's why I asked that
We shouldn't
particular
encourage
question.
that.
So,
I honestly, I think we are over intellectualizing this conversation because the people that are taking this thing World Cup and these conversations to heart and are so happy about these conversations are probably the ones that are willing to stay under the sun for 12 hours to mute, because the kind of and to be fair, the kind of way we are seeing these conversations to go, there are people so excited about it and think he's speaking their mind too. But the end goal is, okay, he has done that. If they enter into the, if they get into power, how does that help you?
You see,
Yeah.
this is the thing. Before I wanted to point this
No.
out. As Ghana, we need to be thinking about how to rebuild. The problem I have, remember last week's episode, we were talking about how I'm going to criticize someone who say, "Why or Jesse?" If you don't agree with a certain party, it means you belong to the other party. There's this binary system that has been created. We need to be able to create a society where we are moving on, we are uniting, we are criticizing everybody because we all voted, right? When you do this thing where you keep doing the identity politics thing, and we'll continue to do it because it's Ghana, right? And it's everywhere in the world actually. You don't give us the moral high ground to be able to criticize people because they will always say, "Oh, but you are a Muslim. Oh, but you are an Ashanti. Oh, but you're a Votarian." This kind of identity politics should not be encouraged for either party. So if this is the kind of messaging that Paul wants to continue to do, he should stop it. He should really, really end that kind of thing.
yeah. So, speaking on that, we have less than 30 days to the election. What should Ghanaians be considering? Because, especially considering that there's a lot of people who think, or there's a school of thought that thinks that this particular campaign trail for both parties have been messy. What should Ghanaians prioritize close to the
For me,
elections?
I think it's there are general problems and there are age brackets problems and there are people and what they want to see.
Right.
For the people that still care about Ghana, for those of us that are worried, I think the economic issue is very, very important because inflation, in as much as it sounds like the most overused word, there are words that you now see them physically happen because they translate to our daily lives.
Right.
The question is, the solution I'm expecting is not to say I am cutting out inflation.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think today we've given take away the statue. I think I've given Nana Addo so much credit with regards to policy creation.
I'm actually impressed.
Yeah, because
I am actually
because
impressed.
when Nana Addo told us in 2016, one district, one factory, agenda 111.
Sounded.
When you put that into perspective, it means that every district would be able to use the kind of things that they have. So he said he could fear example, and if they have this and that, I think there needs to be an active targeting of campaigns and what they should look like, but it should also be the general broad one. Now they said they are cancelling e-levy. Both of them have said it. Fair enough. My question is, why can't they cancel it now? Nobody's answering. NDC says they are not in power. MPP says let's wait till January.
If he doesn't now, what is he going to
What
do?
do you
So he,
It's true, but he said it.
if he doesn't know what he did in January, in my head I'm like, it means that you guys know what you are aiming at. What if January comes and you decide not to do it? Like the point is there are so many what ifs, but this election there is a call for change.
Yeah.
And there is a PR for we want people to still stay. And I'm just trying to go off the point a little. America, for example, the elections that happened there.
We'll definitely get to
there. There are
yeah.
themes of conversations that should happen and what the spark should be. For me, for my age group, I don't know about every other person, but I don't think there's been that message that's been able to sound a lot to reality. But it's probably because I'm expecting a lot more than them just saying we are doing coding for 1 million people. How? 24 hours economy. How? A proper transport system. How? Well, the honest truth is because we like asking the how a lot. Even if they explain the how, we tend to still always ask when, how. Because now if let's take a very good policy from any of them and they tell us what they will do, we have the tendency to start asking, but if you said you do this, where would you get the money from? IMF. Where do you get from IMF and you're borrowing? Who didn't give us this? So for me, the thing is there just has to be more clarity and visualization of what they expect to see for every target market. For me, my problem is just economy, inflation, and basically how people would be able to stay within the country, and not everybody wants to leave Ghana for a better life because they can't just survive on things such as minimum wage and the rest of that. Beyond that, like, those are the things I'm just looking forward to.
Bannerman, what should Ghanaians be considering? 30 days, less than 30 days to the election.
I would see the way I would answer that question would to say what would I consider. But I see, I would have considered whose policy looks like it's more likely to impact the economy better, whose policy looks like it's more likely to make my life better, how would it be implemented? Will it be possible? All those things. The problem is that with the past governments we've seen, even the policy implementation doesn't even work. So that should be like the kind of expectation we even have in our head. So it's like, okay, the policy looks beautiful and nice. It might not even be implemented when we vote for them. So it kind of takes away that kind of things Ghanaians should be using as a criteria. Basically,
Do you think we have been traumatized
we
from
have
the
been
past 8 years?
trauma. It's not easy. We have been traumatized, seriously, because it's like people believe in politicians. They write for them, like on social media. Like people have insulted each other over politicians. And
Friendships have ended.
Relationships have ended because of belief.
You actually think it only happens during election season?
Oh yeah, after
Election season, there's this weird. Yeah, we are back to before.
Oh yeah, because we know that we are not the ones who end up enjoying. Anyway, so the thing is, at the end of the day, it's difficult as a Ghanaian to know which criteria to pick. Because if you pick vibes and inshallah, like, hey, he speaks well, oh, he's confident, oh, they come and then if you pick policy, they can't implement it. So I don't even know what Ghanaians should even look out for, because I don't know what I should look out for, because the criteria we've been using hasn't proven to work. So what Ghanaians should look out for? Who do you think has your best interest at heart? That's it.
That is a very.
There's a problem with that.
Yeah.
Because when he says who has your best interest at heart, that's when things like identity politics starts to play.
Who do you think? Who do you think?
You see, the problem, because for me, I try to answer by saying the economy, inflation. See, the truth is, if you're going to vote, just put in your head that it's your next 4 years, it's our next 4 years that we are putting out there. And just something before you go to the next topic. I think I saw something in the US election. The
next topic is the US.
No, I said something like, people can say, the truth is, our next president is that Mahama or Bawumia. People should stop this weird fallacy of, I'm willing to go and vote for a third party because all of a sudden, mysteriously, on that day, everybody will just wake up and boom, Kwame Chena is going to be president, or Kwame Fanto is going to be president. You see, let's be fair. Democracy allows us to have those kind of thoughts, but let's be very realistic. It's either of them, and that's obviously because of beyond even they have machineries, political parties, MPs, and the rest of that. So the thing here, we have to choose between the two of them. Just make sure that these people have been able. Bannerman says your interest, but for me, the discussions now, the problems you're having now, the economy, the inflation. Let's assume anybody is giving a practical solution. You can go and vote for who you want.
Okay. Now we've spoken about a lot of reforming our politics.
Yeah.
Anytime something like that happens, with regards to evolution or economy, there are certain people that we look up to, certain countries that we look up to. Now, my question is, with regards to politics, do you think there is a correlation, genuinely, there is a correlation between Ghanaian politics, the outcomes, versus the US politics, and then the outcomes? Bannerman, that goes to you.
Yes, I do believe there's a correlation.
Okay.
And see, hear me out. The reason I believe there's a correlation is that, you see, I believe political ideology is very similar throughout the world.
Okay.
So someone has a sister party in the USA, so the ideology is very consistent. The extent to which it impacts us is what I think the conversation should be about. So, for instance, and they were doing it on social media because the elephant won in the US. And the elephant
there was actually a communique that was released in that effect.
My own is that if the elephants had lost and Kamala had won, they would have said that vice president has won. And so those chats, it doesn't do anything, it doesn't impact anything unless you're experiencing spiritual, you believe in the connection at the stars align, and it is a perfect moment. That's up to you. That's your belief. I don't think it impacts us in any way. The parallels I do think we should talk about though is that the American people swerved Kamala Harris. They swerved the Dems. And everybody thought, well, not everybody, most people felt like Kamala had a pretty good chance of winning.
Absolutely.
Actually, the polls were pointing out that she had a good chance of winning, and it was pretty close. But as they say, polls are for strippers. At the end of the day, what happened was, it was racist. It was beaten. It was sounding beaten.
Bannerman, why do I feel like you are happy about the outcome of the US election?
I'm not happy at all. I'm totally not for
Exactly.
But the only reason why I'm excited talking about this is that people called it. I hate it when people sit on like a certain what's it called? Ivory
Pedestal?
tower and just call things. You can have your, and that's my own. In Ghana, you can think that a certain party is winning in terms of the campaign. You can think that a certain party is winning because of what's it called?
Celebrity endorsement.
Yeah, celebrity endorsement, all those things. Fear delegates. See, at the end of the day, the voting will happen. Like the election results will show when we see it. It's like nobody can decide. Do you think Bawumia is winning or do you think Mahama is winning? You can say what you think, but when the time comes, you realize that it's either not close at all or was
that's
closer than you thought.
Exactly. Now, before you, Rafa Arthur. Now, before you give me your take on whether or not you think there's any parallel line to be drawn between the two, let's delve into Kamala. Do you think the reason why she wasn't successful in the election was because she only had 100 days? Because, I mean, regardless of the fact that she pumped a lot, there was a lot of visuality in her campaigns, she only had 100 days compared to someone who had been campaigning for 4 years.
But she
Let me
had-
know what you think.
But she had power days to deal with the situation. I think if the economy, as they said, was doing great under Biden, people would have rewarded her as part of the successes to it. Because the fact that she tried to create an isolation between her and the things happening there was one of the.
And can you draw a parallel with that and then what is happening currently in Ghana too as well?
They're trying to do something bad. They're trying to do bad. So what she noticed is that they was trying for them to create a separation. Celebrity endorsement. All the polls, people who have been predicting the election said she would win. And the truth is, the 100 days, she really like excited people.
Very impressive.
She has to contribute on
Yeah.
that. Dems were saying that she having just 100.
Please, for those of you listening, Dems is Democrats.
Yes, Democrats. They also saying that it was a perfect thing that she had just 100 days because all the insults and the trash talk that Trump was hailing was still being held at Biden. So it was perfect that it was just happening within 100 days because he didn't give Trump the time to formulate the smearing of. So it's not now that you've lost that you are now going to flip.
I mean, in my head, I'm thinking. So if she didn't get all those endorsements, LeBron James, look, Avengers, Cardi B, Megan, everybody. So imagine she didn't get all those endorsements. Do you guys think probably she would have done better or worse? The thing is, I can't draw parallels because they are different individuals. Because people are saying it's because she's a woman, that's why she also lost a lot. People are saying because she's a black woman, that's why she lost. People are trying to give reasons for that to happen. The truth is, if you try and
So that's his identity politics.
if you try and force that with Ghana, it's difficult to call it. The reason I'm saying it's difficult to call it is the elections might not shock me. The reason that the elections won't shock me is because these people have lived experiences. There are ways people are judging these elections and how they see it to be. So people are there, they are voting just because of certain policies and things they benefited from this economy and what they think would happen. They don't really care about what the endorsements would look like. I don't think Bawumia has Elon Musk. Does Bawumia have an Elon Musk in Ghana or the podcast guys that are doing his jobs for him? And the truth is, if you look at people, if you want to do a comparative, Bawumia has actually been campaigning like Trump. Because to be fair, he's been the only person going everywhere to do all the loud statements. He's been the only person going everywhere doing all the active things. And so it's very difficult for you to draw a.
Let me draw one.
This
parallel.
person does draw the parallel.
One parallel I want to draw is this. One of the reasons why it seemingly looks like Kamala lost was because she was distancing herself from Biden. And I was surprised she was doing that because under Biden's administration, the economy was great. But it's actually been very good. Right? The economy in the US has been very good. So I don't know why she was distancing herself.
Yeah.
The only issue is that the problem with the US especially was how America was handling the issue in Gaza when it came to the Palestinians. Right?
Yeah.
In Ghana, the parallel here is that in Ghana, Bawumia looks like he wants to distance himself a bit from Nana Addo in terms of the economy because everybody's saying that the economy is not great and all those things. So we see both people trying to
distance themselves from the sitting
president.
government.
And I think it's important for you to do so to get your own individuality, to an extent. If that will end up being the same for both of them, we do not know. So,
The reason I don't think that is even happening is just because, to be fair, the same people that campaign for Akufo-Addo are the same people that are campaigning aggressively for Bawumia. For me, I really don't see the difference because and I don't think he's trying to the distancing is not distance.
Bro, they said he was not. He was actually fought against it. He actually tried to even reduce the.
But it's the same parliamentarians that campaign for that in parliament that are campaigning for him now.
In terms of the messaging, it looks like he was not. That's what you were saying earlier. It looks like he was not really part of the decision. and yet you can attribute certain successes to him. So you see, I understand, you have to distance to an extent to have an individuality.
Yeah, but doesn't it mean you're running away from responsibility? It's like you want to eat your cake and have it.
That one there is you.
And no, that's my point. My point is eating your cake and have it.
Okay.
We knew we did levy was wrong, so we are cancelling it now. I don't think it used to be an election policy.
That's
Those are the
perfectly
things I
fine.
was looking for. Like, we said e-levy would work. Now that we want change to happen, our president has even endorsed me that I should run. So as his first sign to show that he's supporting me and my new goals, I am taking off e-levy. It doesn't have to be a campaign message because you can literally make it. And the thing is, I think
Right.
NDC will be in the right state now to say we are against e-levy in parliament for it not to run. Actively show that in your bid to distance yourself and you've gotten all of that support, you are looking for it to be done now. It's not about launching up every week. And the truth is, people are having that problem of who they would vote for.
Are these your last words?
My last words in that for this conversation is the election is not cut in stone for anybody. Nobody should feel relaxed and think because people are tired of MPP, so because of that they will vote for NDC. There are lots of swing voters that wouldn't go and vote. It's not like the US system that allows people mail their vote or all of those kind of systems. Ghana, you have to go queue, stand there and say you want to vote. Most of the people talking on polls or doing the Twitter chat and everything, how many of them would go and stand there and have the chance to vote? So I think there's still time for people to try and rile up a certain level of credibility, accountability, and show that they can make those changes. And that's just like what I think. I don't think the parallel is really like cut in stone as we want to make it look like.
Bannerman, last words on this conversation.
Okay. The only things I would say is that one, just stop the tribal politics. Let's stop the religious politics. It doesn't help anybody. Number two, I think people have already decided on who they want to vote for anyways. So if you are campaigning, maybe make your case clearer to swing voters so that they understand what's honestly, there are both policies on both sides look very, very nebulous to us. To be honest. It's up to you people. And then thirdly, I think we need to look at sustainable development, right? A lot of these policies may be sustainable, but like it doesn't look like it's actually like impacting in the way we should want to change. So yeah, let's see how the next week also picks up if there are any news.
This has been a very insightful and engaging conversation. Ralph, rate Ghana this week.
Oh, it's like 10 over 10. 10 over 10.
Okay. Bannerman, rate Ghana this week.
With you on the podcast.
I actually meant rate Ghana this week, as in rate Ghana this week that just
Like the
ended.
country Ghana.
The country Ghana.
This week,
Yes.
forget this traffic has got extra in Accra, and the weather is playing mind games on us. It's drizzle. Amadan has happened. The heat has been extreme. But this week has been 4, but 4. I'm just 4 by 10.
Bannerman rates Ghana this week.
The video of like the NDC parliamentary candidates complaining about the 1,000 cities.
Yeah.
Yeah, that made it.
That made a 10 over 10 for you.
I was so happy.
That's what you do.
Thank you so much for joining in the conversation and for tuning in to as well. This has been Ghana This Week from the Shaft Podcast. I have been Zoe, and I've been here with two very articulate and astute social commentators, Ralph and Bannerman. Make sure to join us for our 3rd episode because it's definitely going to be impactful. Thank you for joining in, for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Bye.